Hello y'all, we are playing with a bunch of new luxury beauty today. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it because literally it's like a full face and then some. I bought the reformulation of the Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation. This was my favorite foundation for a very long time. It was then eclipsed by the Prada, which is very, very similar to it. And then that was all eclipsed by the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint, which I think all of these possess a very similar quality, just the way that they act on the skin. Next, I have the new YSL powder. This is the All Hours Hyper Blur Translucent. This is very clearly a dig at the Givenchy powder that got reformulated, that everyone loved and then everyone hated. I bought new stuff from Dior. I got the new reformulation of the blushes. They're square now. And I bought lilac only because I also bought the lilac lip glow butter. So this is glazed lavender and this is the Rosy Glow in pink lilac. I already owned this in the other formula, the first reformulation. This one's supposed to be, I think, less dusty. And I just kind of wanted to coordinate, but as you'll see going through this, like we have two conflicting ideas in terms of color story. We have lavender and we also have like coral, and they're just gonna have to learn how to get along today, and we'll all try and take a lesson from it. I also picked up, and I'm a little bit annoyed because I picked up two of these and I cannot locate the non-shimmery one of these. So this is the new Dior Backstage Rosy Glow Stick Blush. I initially bought Toffee. I'm not really pumped about how shimmery it is. We will still use it today, but like I did really want to try the regular cream that doesn't have shimmer in it. But it's one of those things that honestly, I think we should set our expectations wisely and assume that it has been eaten by my house. Either way, that's gonna be the blush combo today. It's gonna be a little bit sparkly. I have two highlighters, but it's for a very specific reason. So I have the new one from Prada in the shade Light. Yeah, that's the shade Light. It's like darker than my skin tone. It's like darker than the darkest parts of my skin. And then I have the All Hours Hyper Luminize. This is such a satisfyingly luxurious compact. It's so big, it's Garthy. This is the new one from YSL, just highlighting powder in 01. And then I got the new Dior Quint here. This is the Dior show in Coral Couture. I'm actually pumped that they put the name of it on there, Coral Couture. A lot of times they just put the number. So we'll be using that. As you can see, lavender, lilac, coral. From a color theory standpoint, it's kind of a mess. And we're just embracing the mess because I wouldn't necessarily call Charlotte Tilbury luxury, even though her prices would seem to suggest that she thinks so. I got the two-sided lip pencil here. This is the Fill and Sculpt Lip Cheat situation. And I bought this in medium, which I did not realize I was doing, but I'm actually really fond of it. And then, yeah, I got the lip glow butter. You've seen this briefly in another video, but we're gonna use it again today. I told y'all, there's a lot. And we'll also be reaching back a little bit into some stuff that I've been reviewing lately, and you'll get to see it again because this color story, like I said, is a little dissonant, so we're gonna need some friends to help us make it sing. Wish me luck. I'll have final thoughts for you at the end. Let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so I have my sunscreen on and it is quite dewy glowy. It is the Isntree one that has 8 types of hyaluronic acid. Let's play with the Chantecaille here. So this bad boy, I'm sure people are going to be extremely disappointed, is still in the stupid little jar. Not that I didn't know that when I bought it. I knew it was in a jar. The jar never bothered me in the first place. I also had the Chanel Sublimage Le Temps. I didn't find it to be a huge deal. I finished multiple of these without them going bad, but I do know that that is a big gripe that people have, and I just think it's very interesting that they would go to all the trouble to reformulate it and remarket it without putting it in a different vessel. Whatever, Chantecaille, you do a lot of things I can't explain. In fact, we were there for a while. I mean, honestly, I still am on a pretty strong embargo. God, a word that's very triggering for a lot of people. I was not buying Chantecaille because I had bought so much Chantecaille and it had disappointed me so sorely for so long. All of their concepts and the execution and the prices and everything. It's like, I don't care if you're philanthropic. You're making ugly packaging and you're making formulas and colors that don't look nice. So I got tired of wasting my money with disappointing releases in colors that didn't make any sense. And so I had stopped buying Chantecaille altogether. But here we are. I wanted to try this mainly because y'all asked me to, but also because this was always one of my favorite formulas, and if they were going to bother to reformulate it, I would like to know why. I actually don't know why. If I find out why, I'll put it on the screen. I just bought it because it was reformulated, but I don't actually even really know what's different about it. I do think that I don't know, for memory, it seems to have less coverage. Like, it seems like it's more of a skin tint when once it was a bit more of a foundation. I don't have an old one to compare it to because it expires in a year, and I fell in love with the Chanel a much longer ago time than that, so I stopped buying it, but really not a lot of coverage. I feel like I went in. I feel like I kind of tried to layer it up a little bit and I didn't really get a whole lot of coverage out of that, which is totally fine. It's just, again, we're talking about the behavior, the facts, the way that it looks, the way that it works. I'm not being like, oh my God, I was expecting full coverage from Chantecaille Future Skin. Why are you so f***ing itchy? Stop that. God damn it. Why does something always itch like a f***ing by God on me as soon as I start filming? I don't understand. I'm about to start my period and I am just so angry today. It's just one of those freaking days where, like, you know, I try to like close a door and walk away and the drawstring on my pants is caught in the drawer and then it just like pulls out as I walk away and I'm just like, it's 9 a.m. Is this what today's gonna be like? I hope you can tolerate me. It has nothing to do with you or really me in any kind of existential way or my job or anything. It is just a high hormone kind of day. High hormone. Okay, so I do think that that was an improvement. It has more coverage than the Merit, but like not by a lot. But at the same time, it's still like, I think more flattering. Like I think it showed up more and it bonded with my skin more. It is dewier overall, I wanna say. It's not a dewy kind of thing, but it's dewier overall than the Lisa Eldridge or the Prada. But it is nowhere near as dewy as the Chanel Sublimage Le Temps, which honestly holds the title of having, you know, the most moisture to it of anything that I've ever used. All right, I'm going to conceal and contour really quickly. I'm going to use the Tarte concealer and my Dior contour. I might move it onto the cheeks as a little bit of a bronzer. I tried this look before with the Anastasia contour and I just didn't end up liking it very much because I feel like the whole look wants a little more contrast than that. So it might just be poor eyesight speaking here, but I feel like that foundation, it just made everything look so healthy. It really maintained the dewiness that I had gotten from the sunscreen. Like I wear that sunscreen every day and I don't always get still that like level of sheen that I have right now after I've used a different foundation. I think that we'll do the blush first and then I'll go in with bronzer. I don't usually do that, but I want to do it today so that you can actually see the blush itself. So starting with this. This is the Dior Backstage Rosy Glow, again in pink lilac. This is part of, God, the most recent before this iteration. It was like they had Rosy Glow in 001 pink and what, 3 coral for the longest time. And then they tried to expand it. And when they did, I feel like some people were disappointed by how ashy they were. And so then they, I want to say, expanded the shade range further from there and brought out some that were supposed to be deeper, and I don't think that they really hit the mark there either. And then they came out with the lilac because it was like honestly trying to capitalize on the popularity of 001 pink. And then they did this. They made them square and I think that they're higher pigment. I'm gonna use this Rare Beauty blush brush. It's just so lovely. So far my observation about these is just that they seem less want to hard pan. Like the other ones just hard pan so immediately and this feels like it just picks up easier on the brush. I'm not gonna say it's never gonna hard pan, but it just feels like a easier to work with formula. You know, I'm definitely putting a lot on, but I feel like it's easy to do that without getting completely carried away. It's very pretty. And the benefit of lilac, let's talk about it from a color theory standpoint here. So we're talking about the things that compose lilac, right? How would you mix lilac? You would need quite a lot of some kind of neon base with these. Like white would still give you a little bit too much lavender. So we're talking about something that is probably kind of a vivid pink, similar to probably the original 001 pink. And then, you know, adding a good amount of like a warm blue in there. So there is still some yellow. You would be surprised because for being a pastel color, it's very saturated. So it does kind of go a little bit towards neon. And also something to take into consideration here is pretty sure with the reformulation, they kept the small amount, I mean, very small amount. Like I respected it so small amount of pH color adjusting that happens in the Dior blushes. All of their stuff does that. So they do so little that it really is almost imperceptible. I would say that their lip oil is the one where you can see it more, but I think that they do a pretty good job of color mixing those anyway, of saying like, this is gonna be coral, therefore it's orange in the tube kind of thing. Cool, fantastic. fantastic. Not my favorite thing in the world. It's still a party trick, but I think they handle it better than anyone else if you're gonna like choose to do it. But as a result, you see, it is going a little bit pinker on my cheeks than it looks in there, but also my skin is warm. I have a yellow-orange undertone, meaning that, you know, I'm basically neutral, and I'm more towards the yellow side of that. I know red can sound like, oh, that's a warm tone, and it can manifest as a warm tone, but in my case, because I am so desaturated, it would be more of a cool pink. So if I were more pink, we would call that cool. Either way, the point is, when I have yellow, so much yellow in my skin, you'll find that it starts to cancel out things like purple. And so what are you left with? You're left with kind of a really beautiful pink behind. And that's sort of the logic of a lot of these things. And the more olive, the more kind of warm olive you are, the more at home something like this looks on you. And a lot of like olive undertones just really chase down things that have more either lilac to them or mauve to them, which is going to counterbalance not only kind of any sallowness in the skin that might alter the way a color might appear versus in the pan on an olive complected person's skin, but also it's going to keep things from turning orange. A lot of things want to turn orange on people with olive undertones, and that's just something, it's like a very easy way to go, just go the other direction. Just go away from yellow towards purple. So I love that because the color that it turns on my cheeks between the lilac of it all and also the slight pH color adjusting is just like so similar to my lip color. I could just leave it like that, right? Like no one would be mad if I did that. Unfortunately or fortunately, for those of you who are just trying to kill time while doing dishes right now, we have so many more products to put on my face than that, but I'd like you all to just appreciate the freeze frame of like, wow, that alone is incredibly lovely. Again, I hope nobody reads into my tone thinking I'm like angry with y'all or something. I literally am just so uncomfortable in my body today. Oakley dokley, I think that it's time to go in with the YSL setting powder here. I did get it in translucent. It comes in several shades. It's not, much like all of the things in this video today, it's not inexpensive. And do I love that it is just a white powder in a thing that gets everywhere? No, I think I would rather have the Givenchy pressed. I think that all we ever wanted was the Givenchy pressed. Did it exist in the United States before this? I don't think that it did. And then they brought it here, but like Asia has had it for a long time, I want to say, or maybe the EU has, but like give us a pressed powder. We would rather have, well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but like this is, I'm covered in powder right now, so, you know, either way. Again, my opinions are coming out swift and cutting today. I don't know. I'm going to DC tomorrow, and I swear to God, it doesn't matter if I just had a period, I will start my period in DC. I don't know what it is about Washington, DC. Must be Donald Trump. My body's just like, I am woman! Listen to me! I have rights! And I'm bleeding! This is such an unhinged video. I'm gonna dedicate this one to all my people who send me like chaotic good memes. Mainly Lizzie and Kim and your beautiful, beautiful brains. You know, yeah, it's a loose powder, which isn't necessarily my favorite thing. It's all over me right now, but it is very beautiful. I feel like when they went into this, they knew what they were up against. YSL saw an opportunity that the top dog in this category, I don't know if it was actually the top dog in this category, but everybody loved that freaking powder, that the top dog had stumbled. And they were like, well, if we're going to get in, now's the time, but we better make it count. And it is a darn good powder. It's beautiful. I mean, look at that. It does have a little tiny bit of like, I don't think you would call it a sheen, but it is a really beautiful blur. Like, I don't think it's pearlescent or anything, but it's so finely milled, and instead of being like HD reflective, like, oh no, I'm gonna get under lights and I'm gonna be James Charles, instead it just looks a little bit better than reality, which is all I really want out of a setting powder. But it is not by any means like really oil controlling. I think that they really were going for, we're going to make the Givenchy powder. We're at least going to make the Prisme Libre powder like in a consistency. They didn't go obviously for all the color correction cancellation stuff, but it's as finely milled and a very, very similar texture. And while we're at it, let's go ahead before I put bronzer on and stuff and talk about these two highlights. I need to do like a whole highlight video. Apparently I have had more highlights recently than I have in ages. I was never really much of a highlight person, and suddenly I have tons of highlighters, and a lot of them are luxury. I mean, the luxury fashion house has been coming out with them. Let me swatch these next to each other only because they are kind of cohorts, right, in the time period that they came out. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it, y'all. And I'm sure this will be music to some of your ears because a lot of you have this waiting in your cart and you're like, $90 for a highlighter? The answer is no. Just don't do it. I don't think it's good. And if you already bought it and it works for you, I'm happy for you, but it is so heavy. It's really emollient. It makes the hairs on my skin kind of stand up and stick together. There's something about it that just like, maybe if I used a sponge, but it's like got kind of almost like a putty thing to it. It's not quite fully a powder, and I don't really know what tool to use with it to not make it almost go on my skin kind of gummy. Like it feels kind of gummy. It's like heavy. So there's that. And then I feel like a highlighter, well, it's allowed to have a little bit of emollients to it, like a little bit of just like a smoothness, because that's what you want out of a highlighter, is you want it to be smooth. But like this YSL one, it's just so much more finely milled, and it's lighter weight, you know, and that's really what I want out of a highlighter. So anyway, that's the lightest shade in the Prada, and that's the lightest shade in the YSL. This is what I'm talking about when like I say like there's not a light enough shade for me. Like I need that. And I know that a lot of y'all do. Like most of us are looking at that going, no, that's too dark for me. You know, I can't just like make that work. It looks like a blush. I wanted a highlighter and I paid $90 for it. Diggity dang, 90 diggity dang dollars for it. Okay, so let's find a brush. This is an Hourglass brush, and we're gonna go with the YSL because the Prada would ruin my makeup. One side to the other, can you see the difference? Can you see it? My skin was already pretty shiny, but like this is enchanting. It's quite lovely. I do think that it is very, very nice. Do I like it better than the Lancome? I kind of do, but for different reasons. The Lancome is like so subtle. It's so subtle. Like you're just not going to get something really bananas out of it. And this, I feel like you can get something really subtle out of it, but you can also build it to the point that it's like, I want it to be obvious that I have a highlighter on. And that's cool. I don't know. I just find it to be pretty versatile. Comes in quite a few shades, so you don't have to get the white one. But like I want to be able to put it on like the top of my lip without looking like I have a little peach mustache. You know, I feel like brands are just not always thinking of these things. And truth be told, like I kind of wondered, I'm just gonna like, I'm going to muse as I put on some just regular bronzer. I'm gonna use the Armani bronzer, maybe a little Makeup by Mario, just to kind of smooth her out. I don't know, we'll see what I do. But I feel like the luxury fashion houses went from wanting to maintain their kind of like old guard of previous customers and didn't want to change too many things in that respect. And then I don't really know how to like trace the timeline here, but it's like they want also to bring the runway in and be progressive in their ideas of colors, wanting to be a little bit more like makeup artistry oriented. And somehow they just got caught in the middle where a lot of it's not that functional. I think that Armani has put out some things that, at least in terms of color story, have been very functional. I think even YSL has done some things that are quite functional. When I'm thinking of the ones that are trying to be weird for weird's sake, and they end up kind of making, like if you did a whole full face of them, they don't always come together. I would say Dior and Dior Backstage are right there, in the sense that I'm just kind of like, yeah, I guess I can make it work, but like I feel like I'm not using the things the way you're intending them to be used. Like these bright colors and these like, you know, kind of interesting textures. I'm like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing with this? And the biggest offender is Chanel. What are they doing? I watched this fantastic video by Bliss Foster about the definition of luxury, and the way that he defines, I'm gonna spoil the video, but you should go watch the whole thing anyway. The way that he defines luxury is basically like, this is a brand or a fashion house or a designer or whomever who has a lot more time and a lot more money on their hands, like spare, than other companies that are charging less for things. What are they choosing to do with that time and money? Are they choosing to make something that's truly exquisite in a way that like is maybe not even like on the face of it incredibly profitable for them, but they are like trying to preserve a certain craft, you know, especially when it comes to tailoring clothes or like couture fashion and things like that? The answer is clear for someone like Chanel, but then I look at like Chanel's makeup and I'm like, what are we really preserving here? Why do you keep jacking the prices up? We're not preserving any kind of art form by you continuing to put out the exact same blushes over and over and over again. And that's when it just kind of starts brain worm. I'm just like, Chanel's not worth my money right now. Like, do something that impresses me. Make colors I can't get someplace else. Make packaging I can't get someplace else. Make formulas I can't get someplace else. Put your heart and your soul into it for one reason or another and make me feel like you would die for your art. Okay, because that's what they're doing in a lot of the things that they do in fashion, but like I understand that it's not that expensive on the whole against their fashion, but it is expensive on the whole against the rest of the makeup world. Do something to make it matter, okay? Impress me. Make it incredibly useful. And like Chanel has just taken too much of my money lately. Dior, I want to believe. And their stuff isn't as expensive. And I feel like they're kind of going somewhere with what they're doing right now, but like, I do feel like they're a little shaky at the wheel. One of the biggest cases in point is I just keep buying the damn Dior Quints and I just keep being confused. Because this to me looked like it was going to give me what I want. I want out of a quad, out of a quint, out of anything that is supposed to be an all-in-one little routine maker, I want a differentiation between chroma, so I want to be able to, and you know, hue, lightness, depth. I want to be able to create an illusion using light and shadow. And I also want enough differentiation between the textures that I can use something in my crease that's a matte, and then I can also use something that can deepen that and get another look out of it kind of thing. And then I also want some texture and things like that that's going to, you know, draw the light where I want it. Using shadow, using light. I feel like that is the responsibility of the luxury companies that are making these, by all accounts, basic colored palettes. Obviously people like Prada and Chanel still are out here making little compacts of eyeshadows that make less intuitive sense from that standpoint, but I don't think that that's necessarily what they were going for. Dior and Chanel also keep making these palettes that should make intuitive sense, and they just kind of don't. This is the closest that we've come, and still we're just not there. We are not to a YSL Couture mini clutch in terms of intuitiveness here. Okay, and I just don't understand how you keep cranking makeup out that is so unintuitive. The coral, yes, is that central color. We're all going to suspend our disbelief and say that yes, that kind of pale pink is in fact a coral. Fine. The problem I have is that the rest of it does not go with coral. Coral is by definition a very easy shade for a lot of people to wear. So stay in a realm of shades that are around coral and you can make something that is going to be really easy for a lot of people to wear. I would like to see a deep brown that looks like if you were to desaturate coral all the way down. It's really not rocket science, y'all. It's not. Like, you have a computer. You can take coral, slide it all the way down in the brown category, the saturation category, and get something that will coordinate with this and they will synchronize. You don't have to like keep reinventing the wheel. Why do we have this like medium rosy tan that's in there that's not enough contrast to create a very effective shadow in the crease, which I was hoping that it would. And then what in the crap is that? I'm sorry. Why do we have like this fire orange in here? Pick a struggle. Fire orange and then ice on the inner corner. It's not bad. I just don't know who it's for. And like, honestly, at this point, these brands should be fighting for their lives to get our money. I see absolutely no passion happening here. That's the texture shadow, and it could have been a texture, but instead it is another kind of like peachy layering situation that is just going to cover everything up. I'm like, how are these things supposed to sing together? Where is the symphony? Where's the harmony? I'm not getting a lot of harmony here. So I'm going to show it to you and I'm going to continue to complain about it. So buckle in. I know a lot of you are like, it's not that bad. Guess what? I'm having a day. And this is where my ire is landing. I'm going to start where I would always start, which is the deepest matte, right? I mean, you know, barring like something having like a deep black in there or something. Either way, I'm gonna use that in my crease. And I would say that that's my favorite shadow in the whole palette, is just this kind of rosy tan color. And we're already, this is my fault, into something that is looking quite warm by comparison to the lilac on my cheeks. Sure. That is fine. I will give them that like these two things together do go. This brown and this coral go together. My argument is that they are the exact same chroma. They're the same brightness, they're the same depth, they're medium. So you can't really create anything different. They're even the same in terms of warmth. There's nowhere to go. This is typically like any complaint. This is why I don't buy Tom Ford quads. His color stories don't make any sense. It's fine. It's not the deepest color of something that I want in a palette. It's going to turn orange on olive undertones. It's going to turn very bright on pink undertones. Again, I'm just not sure who this is for. It's like too light in chroma for medium to deep skin tones to really get much out of it. So it should be for me. And it still doesn't have enough difference in light and dark to be for me. I still have to pull something else out, and that makes it not worth it to me. I'm going to demo that right now. So I have a BK202, and I'm going to dip into the middle shade, the coral so-called, and I'm gonna put that on the lid. And do you see how they're they don't, I mean, what are we doing? I'm gonna just layer it. I'll layer it on top of the whole thing, and then they have to go together. They have to hold hands in kumbaya because I have forced them to. I have said I will shackle you to one another. Deal with it. Okay. Okay. Like, okay. In the time that I did that, I could have used a YSL Couture mini clutch of any of the color stories because they all, that I own, make very good sense in terms of light, depth, texture, all of that. In that amount of time, I have gotten something that is basically all one color and not incredibly flattering. And I'll try and demonstrate here what happens when, like, you know, I want to kind of continue deepening my crease with that darker shade. It just, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. That's just kind of it. And I guess if you want to just paint directly onto your eyeballs colors, and that is what you're trying to do, fine. That is what you're accomplishing here. You have colors with which to paint on your eyes. But I want more out of a luxury eyeshadow Quint than that. I want something that builds a look, like a real look that, again, like if you're gonna make something that's in skin native tones, I want it to build an illusion. I don't think that that's that unintuitive of a thing to ask for. This is the one that's more texture than anything else. I'll put that one on. It's still a little warmy gold for my taste, but I do think that it's pretty, you know, cool, cool, cool. But it does feel like it's meant to go along with this, which is just one of the most odd decisions to me. Like, why did we go orange? Okay, but to my color theory eye, like putting like an orange gold right there in the middle of what by all accounts is just basically a pink rest of my eye, I look pretty sick. I look pretty ill. I hate paying a bunch of money and getting a face of makeup on and just feeling not pretty in it. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna take a little bit of the icy color here and you'll see again, like, oh, okay, well, not a bad color in and of itself. None of these is a bad color in and of itself. Like if you own an eyeshadow that's any of these colors and you're just like, yeah, I wear that all the time. Like, what's the big freaking deal? Nothing is the big deal. Like, they're all pretty colors in and of themselves. They just don't go together. If it was a Pat McGrath palette, there was 10 of them, or like, you know, Natasha Denona, and there was like a 15 of them. It's like, no, you're not supposed to cram all of them on your eye at you know, on the same look. They're not all supposed to be able to smash together constantly and interchangeably all at once. But when we're talking about a Quint, they should. And you have 5 shadows to work with. Strange choices. So I'm gonna do 2 things. Well, actually I'm gonna do 3 things. The first thing that I'm going to do is pull out Dior Mono Shadow in Poncho, which we used in my last video because it is a fantastic, very easy to wear crease shade for me. And I'm just going to pop that into my crease and build the shadow that this is begging for. So you know the Dior was capable of making a color to put in that palette. They just chose not to. They just chose not to. And if this is your first video of mine that you're watching, maybe seeing me do this, seeing me adjust for what I wish was in there will be illuminating. You're like, why is she just spouting off so, it's just a stinking Quint. Yeah, but look at the well, I wish it would blend, but look at the difference that it makes to have that depth built in there. Just a little bit. And it didn't even have, it doesn't have to be that dark, but to have that as an option is huge. I mean, it takes the ability of the palette to hit the marks for what you know, might want on a day-to-day basis. I'm going back in with like the brown to blend the edges of that. And it just completely increases the potential of that palette exponentially in terms of what you can get out of it without pulling something else out. I would argue that this color right here is completely unnecessary. Put a deep shade in there and let it live. Because this is a really pretty topper that can build to saturation. To give us more depth would have changed the entire profile of this Quint. Basically. You could have achieved everything that I achieved today and exponentially more. But do you see what I mean? The difference now between light and shadow and also matte and shimmer, like to be able to use those things to manipulate light. Now we're gonna have a little bit of fun because I am really shoehorning these 2 color stories together as hard as I possibly can. And so with all the lilac that's on my cheeks, and we will correct for that also in a second, maybe with more blush, I don't know, but it's also going to be lilac on my lips, I'm going to go in with the lilac, the shimmer lilac, maybe both. Should I do both? The two lilac shades in here from the Janessa Myers, the Mini Freedom Palette Pastel Dream. Ooh, let's take, and I could do this with my blush too, but let's go ahead and see what happens if I just mix a little bit of the lilac into the more translucent part of the eye look, because that's going to change how the eye perceives the local color. Do you see how I just kind of cooled it off a little bit up there? We can do that pretty much everywhere that there's like beige, essentially. And it's going to ever so slightly alter it, make it look a little bit cooler toned. I'm going to take that smaller brush that I had with that same color and just skim over. You see one side to the other, like the difference that the purple makes? Even a little bit of it over the brown, especially because the brown did not want to blend very well. It's an excellent concept, but the actual performance of the formula was not cooperating. Do you see how I just cooled off all of that eye look? The eyelids still pop, but like the rest of it kind of looks a little bit more synchronous with my cheeks. And then we're going to cool off that gold even further because I'm gonna use the shimmer, but I'm gonna use it in a way that I don't want it to just completely eclipse what's on my eyes. I wanna kind of mix it with everything. So I wanna make sure that I'm very slow in how I do this. See? So it's just kind of how the light hits it. These are gorgeous. But how fascinating that something like this would make its way into my kind of everyday rotation. Like I want to keep this little palette out. It has two color profiles in there that I would typically never reach for, but they have found their way into so many things lately just because they kind of serve as adjusters or just like the perfect excitement to add into something in formulas that are so easy to work with. And then, I mean, good grief, this tan situation, I'll take a little bit of like the gold shimmer and just bridge that here because I feel like that's what it should have been in the Dior palette. I mean, we've abandoned ship on the Dior palette. Like, I just don't think that it's worth it. And honestly, every Dior Quint that I have ever bought in the past, I returned. I was just really, I had high hopes for this one. I gave it a chance, and yet again, it just doesn't come together for me. All right, so this is where you can really see, even though we did add coolness to the outer portion of the eye look, still putting that lavender on the lid did make everything kind of like want to shrink a little bit. So we're gonna put on some pretty exaggerated eyeliner, mascara, brows, and everything. We're gonna come back, talk about lips, and I'm gonna apply a coating. I did all of my powders first, but I want to use the Dior Toffee Rosy Glow Stick because I think that that is also going to bring a little more peachiness onto my cheeks. Fingers crossed. With some of this. This is one of the new blush sticks. I do feel like it was an error to buy this color because it's so darn shimmery. I wish they hadn't put so much glitter in it. It's so glittery. Like, it's not just a really nice blurring sheen. I have no problem with something like that. It fully has glitter in places that, like, you'll see it where it's not even necessarily the blush, you know? It'll spread to parts of your face where you're like, why is there glitter there? And it'll be the only thing that I'm wearing, so it's like I know that that's what it is, not my eyeshadow falling out or something. It is categorically too much glitter. Hopefully the color brings things into a state of making sense here. Maybe I'm wishfully thinking, but I think that that's kind of working. I'm kind of using it in an area that's between the bronzer and then like the apple of my cheek because we're working with cool and warm tones against each other. I do know that I put a cool tone right on top of my eyelid, and that's also what's disturbing my eye so much right now. But putting that peach right where like the top of my cheek is going to make it appear as though it is like plumper versus the like lilac that was underneath it. And it's very, very pretty pretty from far off. I think that the formula is gorgeous. I think that this color should be made again. Like they should have a version of this that doesn't have any shimmer to it because it's the color that I want. It's like a beigey coral, but it's very, very similar to the color in the inside of that Quint, even though now you can see this is more of a beigey coral and the quote unquote coral on the inside of that Quint is still pink. It's pink by comparison. And I mean, just ever so slightly, but still. My skin wants to turn everything pink anyway. Either way, they do go nicely together and it's helping bring everything onto the rails at the moment. I do think that we need a powder contour today just because everything is so gosh darned dewy. I will bring in my old reliable here, my Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow. Is this the most cool toned contour in the world? Absolutely not. In fact, it is arguably just a bronzer, but it is a powder. And what I need right now is the light absorption, and I need it to be all the way into my hairline. And when I say light absorption, I mean like it's another manipulation of light that's like, okay, you want a contour to appear that it's receding from the eye. It's not just a difference in temperature and color, it's also a difference in texture because the light is going to play differently on a matte texture. It's going to absorb light and look more like a shadow. Makes it more believable. So, like for example, I had to use Poncho in the crease, and the Poncho is not an entirely matte texture. So throwing a little bit of a matte right there is gonna help absorb light and accentuate a deeper outer corner like a true shadow. I still feel like my cheeks look kind of bald. Let's do the lips. I don't know if I'm going to be completely satisfied by this makeup look. For all the steps and for all the money, I still don't feel like I'm gonna be completely satisfied by it. All right, so I do really like this little pencil situation from Charlotte Tilbury. I think this is what she does well. You know, lots of creamy neutrals. This is the medium tone one. So we have sculpt and fill. Let's do that. Let's sculpt and fill. See what we end up with. Looks like drugstore, not gonna lie. I mean, it's a two-ended wooden pencil. Like there's not really any way to make that look luxurious. I think in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't like that wildly expensive either. So I don't know. So we're gonna sculpt. I'm being pretty aggressive. I haven't done this yet. I haven't done the sculpt and the fill. I've only used these individually as lip liners so far, so we might get there and be like, whoa. It might be whoa. It's a little whoa. My lips are also a little chapped. Okay, so I did buy the medium. It's a little dark for me, but I think that as she gets into her fairer shades, she also leans harder into pink, and I would rather err on the side of depth if it means that I can get a little bit more brown out of it. I'm not mad at that as a lip at all. Like, I'm not mad at the way that that looks. In fact, I was going to originally use one of these Guerlain lipsticks that they sent me and maybe fill it in with that. It's very similar. It's a little bit redder though. I think we need to go into the lilac direction once and for all on my lips. Okay, let us speak very candidly here. This is a $42 squeezy tube. The reason that it is $42, I mean, I don't really think it justifies it, but I think that the reason that they want us to believe it's worth $42 is because it has this little Dior charm on it. Okay. You know what I mean? Okay. I buy enough makeup that like that's not the most special thing in the world to me, but I could see how that's like a very fun little novelty for someone who doesn't just churn and burn through makeup all the time. And also, it is not a freaking interesting color of something, okay? Like, it is truly like holographic fluorescent duochrome blue lavender in a clear base. It's fun. It is fun. It's a little bit galactic and I don't know what they're going for as a brand right now, but this in and of itself is fun. Like, it's very visibly lavender. I told you we were gonna end up with a weird disagreeing color story. It's just a bunch of corals and browns and then a bunch of lilacs. And I still am not sure that they go together. But I really like that we embrace the dissonance just across the board. Just totally across the board. Is it that? We're getting into like CPR mode, but this is Glassy Cayenne. I don't know, let's give it a shot real quick and see if it kind of brings anything together on my cheeks. Just a teeny tiny bit, I don't know. That lilac is so like bossy and overwhelming. I feel like I need a little bit of it on my forehead just to kind of pull everything together, because like there's nothing I can seemingly do to like overwhelm its existence. It is something that I will wear on its own, and the rest of the color story will just be again its own entity. I don't really have words for the way that this turned out. It's not bad, but it's also like, it's kind of a color theory nightmare to me. The way that it is just the lilac and the coral battling each other so much. I don't know why I did this to myself. It's just the kind of day that I'm having, but also I think it's because I didn't want to split all of this luxury beauty into 2 separate videos. There's like not enough of each thing to tell its own story. So here we are with this very, very confusing makeup look. So let's talk final thoughts. I don't think that this was the thing to use with this makeup look, but it's extremely beautiful. This is the Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation, oil-free gel foundation. However, this is $100. Do you need to spend $100 on this? Not necessarily. It's $100, it's an ounce of product. If it is your dream product and it has been in the past, continue buying it. I don't think they did anything so consequentially different that you're gonna be brokenhearted, but like, it has the same amount of coverage, maybe even a little bit less than the Lisa Eldridge, which I'm going to continue comparing everything to. I've worn this before. I don't think that it is like the world's dewiest thing. While they say it is oil-free, it is certainly not silicone-free. It's going to set down on the skin. It has performance. It's not just like clean beauty. It's all like feel good, whatever. Like it is still a high performing foundation. I think it's really, really beautiful. It's just like, I don't really want to be responsible for you running out and spending $100 on this right now. Like, I still think that the Lisa Eldridge is better than this for the same customer. Is this different? Yeah. Is it better? I think so. Yeah, I would own more of these. The Dior powder blushes. I just think that they're not as like dusty looking, and somehow they've made them like not really as prone to hard panning in the short time that I've had it. Not that hard panning is the end of the world, but they do get kind of hard to use after a while. This feels just kind of like a more modern version of that formula. I think they did a good job with it. I'm annoyed with myself for buying the Dior blush stick in one that was shimmery, because the shimmery is like full on glittery and it's just not my thing. I'm also mad at myself for somehow misplacing the other color, which I'm not going to let myself forget, but my house is carnivorous, I guess. Either way, I don't think that this is at all a run do not walk situation. Again, I want to withhold judgment as far as the other colors are concerned, but this is remarkably dewy. Like, to the point of being kind of an unsophisticated formula. Like, it doesn't do anything other than dewy. So for a very expensive product like this, I think that there are better things out there, especially for you to not have to like bargain on the color that you want because you don't want to buy one that's shimmery, because I don't recommend the shimmery ones. Like, I would, it's so many times over recommend the kind of new, more like nuanced shades, or any of the shades really, of these glassy blushes from House Labs. So similar, like so similar, and yet so much better. The YSL powder, is it doing what it was aiming to do? Yes. I feel like they kind of took too long to get here, because while they were trying to hype their product up before they released it, Givenchy had plenty of time to release a pressed version, and the pressed version is a lot easier to use than this, and I think it was the better product that should have prevailed over both of them to begin with. And that's a preference thing. Some people don't want a pressed powder, but like, you know, if the Givenchy broke your heart, maybe this is a good alternative, but if the Givenchy broke your heart, I would still recommend trying the pressed one before you try another loose one. I guess it depends whether you think that like the color correction portion of the way that this product is conceived of is really important, or whether it's a gimmick. That's gonna make the difference. If you think it's a gimmick, then this is fine. It's a very, very comparable formula. If you're really into the color correction portion of it, like, this is fantastic. The Prada highlighter is not worth your money. Even if you could find a color of it that really worked for your skin, it is a very difficult formula to use. Like, I want to try almost just like picking it up with a sponge might be, but I don't want to put anything else on my face. Maybe just be mindful of because you still have to buff it to get it to come off the sponge. Maybe just be mindful of the fact that it isn't necessarily a powder. They say that it is a powder, a glowing powder, but it is not totally a powder. It's like too emollient. And so it does drag the makeup around underneath it. So if that's something that you're willing to kind of work with another tool, maybe, but like for $90, I am not going to be the one to ask you to do that. The YSL highlighter though is really, really lovely. Like, it's going to stay out for me. I really like it. I just think it's like super duper pretty. I think it does a great job. It's up there with like my Armani bronzer in the sense that it's something that I would just reach for and know that I couldn't get myself in too much trouble with it because it's not too dark. It's a great formula that's not glittery. And also, I mean, a lot of what you're paying for when you are talking about luxury is like a good experience, and like the whole experience to my eye is just kind of a lot of fun. It's like a big honky chonky thing. It feels like you bought something substantial, and I like that. I feel like I didn't do a very good job of distinguishing the difference between Dior and Dior Backstage. So Dior Backstage is having more fun over here with their Diorness and, you know, doing all of their colors and their lilacs and whatnot. And then regular Dior is over here making things like this contour stick that's sent from God that I will not shut up about, but also some things that are tough for me to explain. You know, I still think that the angle that Dior Beauty proper is taking is trying to be one of practicality. And this doesn't really pick a struggle in terms of practicality. Like, is it trying to introduce the legacy customer, the person who likes a good skin native color story, is it trying to introduce that person to something that might be a little outside their comfort zone? If so, do so in a way that more people can use it by putting more differentiation of shades in there. If what you were actually going for was to cater to your legacy customer, then you belly flopped entirely, because this just doesn't make any sense. This gold right here, this orange gold, belongs on a medium to deep skin tone. Does the rest of this palette belong on a medium to deep skin tone? I will let you answer that. My answer is no. You know, come up with your own responses, but like the deepest shade in here being the equivalent of like a very fair blush for me means to me that it's not meant for people who are deeper skin toned than I am. And like the other things just don't agree. I would kick this one out, replace it with something deeper. I would actually kick this one out and make it more champagne. Understand that when you're talking about coral, you are already talking about warmth. Not this much warmth in this case, because you did make a coral that you're calling a coral, but it's actually pretty pink. I mean, coral is a debatable color. Still, it's not a coral enough to call it coral couture in my opinion. And this shimmer right here could be spanglier. I don't think anyone would be mad at that. I don't think anybody would be mad at that. I don't think anybody would be like, oh, that's garish. It has so much more room to be exciting. And it's like the particles are too small. It's too foiled and not spangly enough. It's just not enough of a like light stealing texture. The whole thing is just as disappointing, not quite as disappointing as, what was it called? New Look, the New Look palette that everybody loved so much. I will still never understand the appeal of that one. It was just soot on soot on soot. But yeah, I'm still not impressed by the Quints, and I remain unimpressed by the Quints. Do you need this from Charlotte Tilbury? No. No. It's just a lip liner. There's a gazillion lip liners out there. I don't know if I've ever run across a lip liner where I'm like, you should pay a luxury price for that. Like, you know, I top out at spending like 20 something dollars on a lip liner. I don't think this was wildly expensive either. I just still don't think it's a run do not walk situation. It's something that if these colors work for you, you will use it until it's tiny, tiny little nubbins, you know what I mean? And go off Charlotte Tilbury. It's what she does well. Fantastic, but like, don't let me convince you that those are the colors for you. I don't know. They're just brown and pink. The same as everything that she does. And this little silliness, I will say, again, Dior Backstage has a different point of view. They're doing more color. They are also gonna ride this lilac until the freaking wheels fall off. But this is an interesting formula, not just a squeezy tube disguised as luxury by putting a little dingly dangly charm on there. Like, the formula is kind of fun, and it doesn't pH color adjust, which is cool. And also the shimmer is like holographic blue purple, which I just wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting it to be kind of that out of the box for Dior. I don't know, it's just, it's fun. Like, if this is my first video you're watching, you might think, God, does she hate luxury? No, I'm like obsessed with luxury. I'm just very discerning about it because I bought all this with my own money. Like, I'm very, very discerning about the things that I want to recommend to y'all because I do understand how frigging expensive they are. Things that are worth my money all day long, these little Dior, I collect them, the little lip maximizers, I love them so much. The Dior contour, I use it, you wouldn't know it, but I use the daylights out of it. I use it every single day. You wouldn't know it because it's so hyper concentrated, it'll last you the rest of your life, but it's fantastic. Like I said, I finished an entire thing of Chanel Sublimage Lachon. Like, I do love me some luxury beauty, but I also have, with a lot of experience with it at this point, a point of view, gosh darn it, and I am not going to sit here and tell any of y'all to part with your money about something that is not that impressive. You know what I mean? Like, especially if what you're looking for is your next quad or quint and it's aiming to solve a part of your routine that makes you not have to think about it again, that little guy is gonna be freaking frustrating and unexciting and expensive. I hope that none of y'all comes away from this video thinking that I wake up on this side of the bed every day. I don't. I am hormonal, willing to admit it. Sorry to give it a bad name. I'm hormonal, okay? Everything is driving me insane today and I'm extremely uncomfortable in my body. And on Monday, I had an IBS flare. It's been an uncomfortable week in my body. in general. And so perhaps I will allow for the possibility that my takes were a little hotter than usual today. But I hope you enjoyed them. By the time you see this, it's gonna take me probably till next week to edit it. I'm probably gonna be editing this and being like, are you good? Yeah, it's really giving like, Kim, there are people that are dying. I hope you found this enjoyable and or informative. I hope I saved you a little bit of money today. If any of that is true, please give the video a thumbs up. If you're new here and by God, you made it this far and you're not subscribed yet, you can go ahead and subscribe. You're in a safe place at this point. I will put a video up here that I think you'll enjoy if you liked this one. I love you all so very much. Thank you for being here and I will see you in the next one. Bye.